Good evening and welcome to the Monday, November 17th, 2025 meeting of the Green Worcester Advisory Committee. My name is Mary Niddle. I will be chairing tonight's meeting. Before we begin, I would like to go over some meeting rules and other logistical details. Tonight's meeting is in a hybrid format, which means that we have committee members, city staff, and community members both in person and online. This is a public meeting and is being recorded. The draft meeting minutes are generally available for review and approval at the consequent meeting. Once an agenda item is called, there will be a brief description of the item, followed by any additional comments and clarifications from members of the city staff, and then an opportunity for anyone from the public to speak on that item before we proceed to committee discussion and action. The members of the public will be given a maximum of 2 minutes to speak in order to provide enough time for the discussion and to keep the meeting on time. To help maintain an orderly meeting, please address all comments and questions through the chair rather than directly to any of the other speakers or committee members. Each agenda has the opportunity for the public to speak on a matter not on the agenda for a limited amount of time, no more than 2 minutes. At the public participation, community engagement for standing items to be considered for placement on the next agenda. While an item outside of the agenda cannot be discussed by the committee may decide to take a vote to formally place the item for formal discussion on one of the forthcoming agendas. So with that, thank you. And we will call the roll. Mary Niddle here, Evelyn Hurwitz here. Pat Austin here, Ted Kana, present. Mary Leovich, Steve McCauley. Oh. All right, we're calling the roll. Mary Leovich.
Here.
Thank you, Mary. Steve McCauley. No, and Deirdre Murphy said she couldn't.
Steve, your lessons are right here. And they sent that out.
Beautiful. It's on the case here. So for those online, we're in a room we don't usually use with technology we don't usually use, so it's taken a minute, and we appreciate your patience. But we get ourselves pulled together here. One of our members isn't here yet, but just making sure they have the opportunity to know exactly where we are. But will we move on in the meantime to approval of minutes from our previous meeting? Does anybody have any comments? I know they were amended already. You've got to review the amended version. Then do we have a motion to accept those minutes? So second?
Second.
Thank you, Mary. Anybody opposed? No? Okay. So we will move on to new business, starting with a discussion about the event that was held on the date that our previous committee was scheduled for, and we postponed our meeting or canceled it so that members of our group could attend that one. So I'll turn it over to John.
So yes, thank you. So this was event that the state, Lisa Hoffman, who is the sustainability czar, for lack of the proper title, from the state, put together community members with brought in and tell stories about how climate change has affected them. And we heard stories from folks in Leominster, children in Sterling. We heard folks who some of them represented the tribe. So we had some interesting discussions on that. Thought it was valuable for city participants, city walk members in particular to be able to attend it. So we chose several we did, which was great. That's I and all of us from their staff. So it was very, it was an interesting discussion. Learned some. There was not as much feedback from the public as I had anticipated, but I thought a little bit more. So people beyond just stories, were there to share some of our own thoughts, concerns, etc. But I was glad that they have it. I'm hopeful that I gave some feedback to Simon as well. So hopefully that was taken. That was right. But we don't have much more here. I'm curious if there's any comments from those who attended. Value or not.
I would add that I appreciated they had some tabling for other community organizations to make themselves visible, for, Sierra Club and others that it was useful to have a pardon?
That's fine.
Audubon's, yeah. And then they had opportunities to continue to receive information and updates from the model. What's going on. So it was nice to have that meet and read. I couldn't stay for the whole thing, so I had another commitment, but it was good. And the location at the Blackstone Valley Visitor Center was also very nice. We could have our meetings there. Anybody else have any thoughts, Ted?
Thank you, Chair. I was there. I thought it was great. What it was great. I thought it was inaccurately promoted because really, when you read the promotion, it sounded like they were looking for input from people who showed up. In fact, they were, they had people sort of chosen for a panel to present, feedback from the public, but it was kind of a chosen. But, still worthwhile and interesting for the rest. Wish they would do the thing that they didn't.
Yeah.
Good.
Could everybody online hear that okay?
Yes.
Like, we're just sensitive to some fan on in here also, so we wanted to make sure that it wasn't being turned out. Okay. Any further comment? All right. Well, thank you. We'll move on to the second item under new business, which is the proposed meeting calendar for next year, which everybody received in their packets.
Monday.
Still Monday.
We did do a vote, meeting members. Monday service is one that most people attend, so that's why we stuck.
Okay, so do we have a motion to say, maybe any discussion on this calendar? And if not, we have a motion to approve it as it stands. Second,
Seconds.
anybody opposed? No, okay, so we're ready. And it's good. January 5th, right out of the gate. I think we met the first week in January this year.
We did.
Start the year off right.
Yeah. First Monday. All right, so we're on to public participation, community engagement. Does anybody have from the public wish to share anything? Okay, Bill, you got 2 minutes. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to talk about, so I appreciate the city has a zero waste management plan. I think it's definitely a move in the right direction. And one of the things that I think would be helpful for this committee to, at the very least, potentially put a motion together for the future to maybe do a report and come back to the people about what their findings are. But St. Gobain has a very sordid history, let's say, in the city of Worcester, and holds quite a large amount of land that I think, at the very least, one thing we can agree on is it might not be utilized in the best fashion. And I know that St. Gobain also gets many of free business consulting services and support from the city. And I think at the very least, there should be a formal, if not stance, at the very least, some sort of investigation, even to take a look at some of the possibilities into transforming that land and making it more friendly, more useful to the city, and not just let it waste away as so many other abandoned properties and lots. I'm sure this committee and the zoning board know very well. And I think it aligns very well with not only how to integrate it, but potentially whether it be zoned as residence, whether it be zoned as some sort of public rec centers, new childcare facilities potentially. It's quite a bit of land. I think St. Gobain and the city owe it to the people to take that initiative and make that report and come back to the public on what those findings are, even if it's just preliminary. It's been here for quite some time, and I think it's well overdue. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We'll, what do we do as this committee?
You can just forward it, consider it forwarded to us, and we will take a look. Through the chair, just to comment very quickly, I did want to mention that St. Gobain has recently sold a significant portion of their former site, over 50 acres, to WBDC, which is a development, nonprofit development corporation here in the city. And that is being redeveloped into green manufacturing predominantly, with a high sustainability bent to the redevelopment. At least that's the intention as we sit here today. We'll see what happens, but the goal is encouraging. So I would comment that at least to some level, what Bill has asked for is already in the works, at least for a portion of that property. As to the rest, we'll take advice. Sure.
Thank
Really,
you. So, yes.
Chair, just to ask a clarifying question. Phil started by mentioning the zero waste master plan. Is there some connection between the zero waste master plan and the concerns about St. Gobain? So I feel like I've heard this once before and I didn't understand it then either. So, are those two things related in some way?
Bill, is that part of the concern?
In a way, I could make the argument to whether caps, right, if it is going to be zoned in the future for manufacturing and lean manufacturing, caps on waste, incentive structures for not meeting the waste and punitive measures as such. But I think at the very least, some of that discussion and speculation, I think realistically would come out best in some sort of preliminary report that is readily available to the public, that a standing committee like this does, and whether or not one of those opinions is more or less compelling at that point is subjective. But just at the very least, do that type of investigation and see what some findings are, even if they are preliminary at best.
Through the chair, I'm still confused because I'm not opposed to looking carefully at anything at all, but I'm not sure how that integrates with the zero waste master plan report. That's what's confusing me.
John, the city will let people know that this was brought up at this meeting and it'll be fun. Thank you. Do we have any other public participation and community engagement items this evening? No? Okay. Thank you, and thanks again for attending, Phil. We'll move to our standing items, the task force updates. The decarbonization benchmarking goals group is typically first.
Oh, good chair.
Yes, that's right.
No, oh, never mind.
Forget. Okay, never mind. Thank you. So the decarbonization group, Ted, do you want to give the update or will I get the update? Okay. So this group is made up of Ted Connor, Steve Polly, and myself. We met recently among ourselves to try and refocus on how our task force efforts would best benefit the committee. And to that end, we had a very good meeting with the members of the Department of Sustainability and Resilience, and met the whole team in their office and got a number of really good ideas, which we are in the process of doing a little background on. And then hopefully for our next meeting, we will kind of have a little more focus on how the decarbonization group can best help the city make its goals, ambitious goals, or come closer to meeting its ambitious goals. So that's that update. I'm going to talk about the schools program.
Sure. So the schools task force, comprised of myself, and also working, I would just pretty much act up at this point. I'm going in terms of the goal that we set for trying to integrate more about sustainable resilience, which is curriculum that as people discussed in the prior meeting, we've some progress with that, and then the department is now really taking the lead, working with the school department and consultants from the STEM curriculum program and WPI. So Pat, I'm sorry, I'm going to let you this, but this earlier this week, that perhaps this task force is not permanent standing. Their work for now is done, and that we're glad to be present for any needs that PSR has going down the road, and looking at the details of this, whatever, but we can accomplish our goal. Yeah. Okay.
So we'll keep the task force alive, but Or will we-
We don't need to be in standing.
Okay.
At this point.
do we officially need to do anything to approve that task force as a standing item?
Fine.
Yeah, you can just file it.
Fine.
So we don't have to vote. Just file it. You guys, it's an internal. Just didn't, sounds like. Made it. Task force itself is saying we are currently disbanded, but we formed as it.
I'm sure we feel the work is done because the city is taking it up.
Because we got the parties together, we did a lot of work over the last couple of years. Then, going together with other parties and gone to do, there's a way that was, I think, to the conflict on development, summer. And so it's really in here to the school department and looking at the consultants and the department to carry that forward. And again, there's no need for us to be as a task force to discuss that. But we can certainly pull ourselves back together.
Right, okay. Yeah, sure. It just seems to me there's so many different ways to school department could intersect with sustainability that it's, I feel like there's ongoing stuff that we.
And I think there's a time. And there's a time in the 5 police plans, right?
Yeah, understood.
So we'll move to DSR project updates.
Yes, so thank you, to the chair. So our, zero waste master plan, it was, continues, making good progress. We have a upcoming online survey that will get out, tomorrow or more likely Wednesday at this point. That survey will have, a series of questions, but essentially we'll be asking to prioritize, potential items that we may want to consider. Those will let you a chance to select 3 out of usually it's about 7 or 8 for those short-term, medium-term, and longer-term projects. And then based on that feedback, we use that feedback to help inform how we actually will prioritize these specific measures. So as an example, should we increase the hours at the Gilbert Street Cycling Center site so that they extend through the winter. So that's an option. People can say, yes, we definitely want that, or there may be another option that they may choose that they think is more important, and they can write them. And so that information will then be used, as I said, to help inform the survey plan's actual list of priority items that we'll have and to write those. So we're hoping, like I said, to get that out this week. If you recall, the first survey we did at the beginning of this effort solicited, we received over 1,800 responses. So we think that we get even half that number from this, we'll hope more than that, of course. But if we can get even half of that, that will be a something that we can look at with some authority to say that, you know, the people have spoken. We had in-person and online community meetings earlier, which were great, and we learned a lot, but it was typically attended by people who were already either very much in favor of doing more for zero waste, or people who had some real concerns. It didn't really capture the people in the middle. And there was only about 25 people who showed up for each one of these. So we thought that this would be a great way to, because many of the topics, the potential items are already known at this point. So it's a great way to sort of get some real feedback in terms of what people think is most important. So that's, like I said, coming up. We will obviously be letting you guys know about it through your social media and other outreach efforts. So look forward to it. Obviously, we would love everyone on the committee to provide their feedback as well. But we're also would encourage you to let your networks know about it. Folks need to be either live in the city or work in the city to participate. But if you have no folks in either of those categories, please do forward them the survey so that they can participate and we can get their feedback recorded. And that is all I've got.
Through the chair. So I went to a couple of meetings, they were good. I think I'm kind of confused about, maybe this will be explained somewhere. It's like, how much of this is we're doing because it's a good thing to do, and how much is required by DEP regulations?
But the zero waste master plan has a mix. So,
Yeah.
but most of it is not actually DEP regulations. Anything that's DEP regulated, where we've assumed is already
That we are in
in the
compliance,
book. Yes,
and that we're in compliance.
and then we're in compliance, or that we will be moving into compliance in the very near future if for some reason we're not in as we sit here today. This is more for other opportunities that we may
Above and
want to
beyond.
consider. Yes. Often in parallel with what DEP is looking to do, each statewide, and trying to do our part to, manage that as effectively as we can, but it's not enforcing or looking to do stuff that's already been on the books on their end.
Thank you.
I just wanted to real quick add a clarification on the survey. We want it to be as many people filling it out as possible, so I just said to see if students can fill it out too. If they don't live here, but they go commute to school here, and also if you a nonprofit that operates in the city, or you are part of a house of worship here, anyone who really spends time in Worcester, we want their feedback. Their impact. So just wanted to add that in. It's really community wide.
Right. Live, work, play.
Yep.
Very good.
Thank you.
Just asked through the chair, there was a link in the agenda. What was that?
It just goes to our zero waste master plan page, and that's where we're going to post the link for the survey once it's live this week.
Okay, now I can get it to work. It didn't work for me, but that doesn't mean it didn't work.
Okay.
It didn't work for me. Maybe I didn't work for it.
Yeah.
We also will email that.
Yes.
And,
So,
Thank you. So into energy.
yes. So, the first item, energy savings performance contract requests for proposals. That's a mouthful. So it's basically, folks who may have heard of the term ESCO. It's our energy services contract. We've had one for several years that expired at the end of 2024.
Oh, yes.
And it basically was the primary mechanism for the city's municipal and school buildings to decarbonize and to become more energy efficient, and also to include renewable energy, solar in particular projects. We've made some significant investments over the last, over the 15 years of that, roughly $140 million worth of investment, so it's significant. And now we're going back out to bid for another one. The bid's now closed on December 3rd. It was a pretty heavy lift to get a new bid out there, but we have it. And now that we've got some help on the way, we're looking forward to working with whoever the selected vendor is, so that we can plan out the next phase of this and phases of this. It'll probably be a multi-phase project. So this is good news. And so we're excited to let folks know that sometime before the end of the year, we should be able to have selected a vendor and then work out a contract and get to work. Regarding smart energy advice, I'm going to turn that over to Jesse Davis here to talk about that.
So the Smart Energy Advice Program is hosting a second webinar this week on Thursday, November 20th. This is continuing our partnership with Green Energy Consumers Alliance. We hosted a webinar this summer with them, and it was targeting landlords and electrifying their buildings, doing energy efficiency upgrades. And this time we're switching our target audience to be homeowners, and the focus is heat pumps. So how does the system work? How is it designed in your home? What should you ask contractors? Important information that people should know before they consider this. Or even if you've already made a transition and you have some questions for an expert, we would welcome you too. So we have the flyers here. You can sign up with the QR code and the link. And we had a pretty good turnout last time. I think we had around 50 people. And that was, we did it during the day, 12 to 1, lunchtime for landlords, since that was the focus. And this one we're doing at night, 6 to 7. So we'll see which time is good too. If this is going to be like a recurring outreach tactic for us, maybe we'll do them every few months, see how impactful it is. So you can take a flyer and pass it out to friends. That would be great to spread the word. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And the next one, which is the Green Worcester Electricity Aggregation Program. There are some outreach materials on that, which there, other than that new contract will be taking place as of your December usage, and so you'll notice it in your January bill. The rates went down just over a penny kilowatt hour, which is good news for everybody. And the amount of green energy in the mix stays the same. So we'll still be at approximately 2/3 of the energy will be green, and at a reduced cost, which I know is important for everybody right now. So every bit helps. So this is again also good news. The market has moved in our favor recently, so that's good. That's it. I don't think there's really any other update than that, but if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Through the chair, so originally, I remember the standard green is the basic product, and then you could opt up to 100%, but now I see a basic green, which is less than standard green, kind of opt down. How is that different from National Grid basic service? Because there's a certain base level that's just required.
Right, no, that's a great question. So, the base level for National Grid and Eversource and all utility providers, the state is about 27%. We are under that new option, reducing our added from 40% at add, which is what our standard option is. We are now providing a 20% add. So we still bring up folks to almost 50%. 47% of their total will be green, but it gives them some additional savings. We're very cognizant of the fact that in today's world that the price tag is important. People want to do what they can to go green, that people see climate change too, and you want to do the best you can for both. And we thought this was a good medium opportunity for folks to take advantage of some green benefits and lower the rate even more than our standard effort. So that's why we had included it. People can opt in for it. They just have to let us know, or let a provider know, and we can slot them into that if they request it.
So we have forest green, green, and pale green.
Sure.
New names, yeah.
But it is greener than basic service.
Consider that.
That's the goal, is to just give people a menu of options. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And hopefully with that middle range, I know that when we've discussed this in the past, we did not have as many people signing into the 100% as we hoped. So maybe with this option, we might get more people in that middle range. Anyway, a little closer.
People are starting in that middle range, so you really have to either opt up or down.
I see.
People will have that choice, but we start you in the middle. That's the standard. Now a lower costing rate, but if you did decide you wanted to lower it a little bit more, you would not have that option.
Through the chair, I guess my question is, so people, I think maybe you could also update us, like, we have people who have alternative suppliers. And I think we don't know who they are or how many of them there are, but among the people who are either with the city or in National Grid Basic Service, we know what that universe looks like. And the city has most of it. Is that right?
Through the chair, that is right. So I don't want to get the numbers too far wrong, but that the utility has about 15% National Grid people who have opted out of the program because people are brought in from start, or they've opted out to go back to National Grid. There's another, as you point out, relatively large subset of people who are in a variety of different suppliers. As they are welcome to do. And then the rest, which represents some 50 to 60%-ish of the total pool, are under the application.
So through the chair, my only concern, I guess what we're doing here is we're trying to compete with National Grid to keep them from opting all the way out with basic green. That's the kind of goal, is that because people may decide to opt out to save money and they have this option instead, and then they're still in the program.
Well, even at the basic, even at the mid-tier level, the starter level that everyone starts at, that actually is for this coming, once the new contract goes into effect, will actually be less than National Grid's rate. So fractionally, but fractionally less than National Grid's rate. So there would be no incentive to switch to National Grid's rate for financial reasons. There may be others I can't think of, but people are welcome to do that if they so choose.
Because their customer service is so great.
Perhaps that's it.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's it. So, but it does allow for folks who have a competitive supplier who may offer a lower rate. Instead of actually taking the competitive supplier, they could in fact stay with the program and get a lower rate and get more probably get more green electricity in bargain as well. So that could be a win on both sides.
That makes sense. However, it'll be hard to quantify whether we succeeded or not because we don't get that part of the information. Why is that? Yeah.
Because it's National Grid is keeps that we're not allowed to know what anybody's bills are, and this is considered private information from their perspective. According to the tariff, that's how it's interpreted.
Through the chair, I'm just wondering, can you have an idea of what the range of green mix, green percentage of supply and pricing is for these competitive plans? I mean, I get the flyers all the time. There's a sense of it.
No, I mean, some market themselves as 100% green, to target that market. Others are strictly trying to get the lowest price. Some offer longer fixed price terms, which is their shtick. I will say that in general, it's super important for anyone hearing this who's thinking about potentially switching is to read the fine print. Many of these have teaser rates that last 6, 12, or 18 months, but then switch you to a much higher rate for the balance of that contract. And most people, not all by any means, but the average is that people who switch over time spend somewhere in the order of about 15 to 20% more for electricity than they would under their community's aggregation plan. This is across the state that there was analysis done. So again, read the fine prints. If you want to go that route, that's fine. There are some good programs out there, but you have to be on top of it to take full advantage.
Through the chair, I just wanted to share a resource that we share often through the Smart Energy Advice Program. This is a question that comes up a lot. I know that some of the committee members have asked what kind of questions come to us in that program. One is about this. So we often share the website energyswitchma.gov because that's the side-by-side that compares and of the different rates. And our aggregation is in there, and then it shows you the length, and then also there's cancellation fees, how much that would be to switch, when does it turn to variable rates. So it's really important that people check out, and that's a government website, the state website, so you know that it's not, you know that it's accurate.
Can you say it again?
Energyswitchma.gov.
Go ahead, Jeff.
To the chair, also just to sort of add my support for what's being said. I personally have dealt with some of these alternative suppliers, and they're often promoted by salespeople who don't know the first thing about what they're selling. And if you ask if it's green, they'll say, oh yes, it's 100% green, and get it in writing, because I've bought things I thought were green and they turn out there's no green to be found once I actually get the paperwork. So that's one concern. The other thing they do is they try to give you some kind of incentive or bribe to sign up, and you're going to get a rebate, and a lot of them you have to fight like hell to get them to honor that promise. So yeah, there's a lot of nonsense out there in the real world, and it's too bad we can't even get the information about who's choosing that over what the city offers, but it is what it is. That's a matter of state law. You said tariff. I don't know.
It's the DP regulations. Yes, so that's how it's, the DP regs are interpreted by National Grid, and they call it the tariff.
So this,
Department of Public Utilities, yes.
but we're allowed to know who is in National Grid's universe, not just those who decided to leave it. That's the part that we can't. I mean, I think that information would be useful if you could get it, right?
It would be helpful, but Not for lack of access. No, I haven't asked for a while, to be honest. So many times you get no's. Just it's
Okay, any further question about the electricity aggregation program? Okay, we are ready to move on to lakes and ponds then, please.
Lakes and ponds. So two quick updates for folks. One is that sampling season has ended officially. That means basically all the data has been collected through all the sampling efforts over the spring, summer, and early fall. That is now going to be compiled, the data analyzed, we'll see what results we have that are coming up. And they will all be presented at the annual State of the Lakes event, which we had tentatively targeted February for that, specific date to be determined. I'll obviously share this with you as soon as we have it, for you to share with your own networks, but that's sort of the game plan now as the Lakes and Ponds program goes up. Less field work, more data management work for the next few months.
Okay, so one other thing about closing the sampling season, I was talking to our Lakes and Ponds coordinator about it recently, and she said that this was the first year in a long time there were no beach closures all season. Which is a really huge deal for the program. So congratulations to them on all that work and managing and monitoring the water, those water bodies. And there were no closures. I mean, I'm sure everyone can think of years in the past where it was like, it's closed again, it's closed again, it's closed again, right? And trying to figure out how to manage that. So just a really exciting accomplishment.
And to the community members that,
Yeah.
right? I agree.
Volunteer.
It's a great story, yeah.
Reading the samples, it's a lot of work.
That's another thing. It's challenging. There were, there are 4 water bodies that are actively managed, but the folks that go out and do the sampling actually look at over 20 water bodies. So it's a big effort. So yeah, well, kudos to a team of 2 on our Lakes and Ponds program, plus an intern part-time. So it's impressive what they get done. It's great help of the community.
Thank you. Okay, so resilience.
Resilience. I'm going to turn this immediately over to Jesse.
Sure. Thank you. So first, we just wanted to share that we are doing the same program that we did last year, which is encouraging residents to submit a request for a tree to be planted in front of your property. So this is a program that the city has had for a long time, but hasn't been able to manage outreach around the program. And Evelyn has helped us with a lot of our communications and outreach. And so this is the second year we're doing this effort. And last year, in like the 2 months that the first 2 months we were doing promotion, the Parks Department received more in those 2 months than they did the whole previous year, those requests. So it's really working and very exciting. So the concept is, if people submit a request through 311, there's the map option. You can drop a pin and it shows up in front of your property, or you can call or email in different ways. You can reach out to 311. But trees are always, or typically, more successful when they're planted in front of a property where someone right? So they're willing to take care of it and watch out for it. So this is a way to make our street tree plantings successful and expand our urban canopy. So we're hopeful that people will submit a lot of requests and they'll be considered. It's not a guarantee. If you submit a request, there's a lot of factors that are considered: the location, the Parks Department there, foresters go out and check things like utilities and the space on the sidewalk, and there's all these different factors they have to consider. But they are the ones that are submitted through this app are the highest priority. And especially if you get in with your neighbors and request a lot on your street, it also will be prioritized. And if you live in an environmental justice area where there aren't any trees, the higher priority will go there. But like I said, it's not guaranteed. And we're doing this push through January 1st. So all of the requests are coming in, and then they'll be considered for spring planting. That's all I wanted to say about that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair. So, I just wanted to clarify, years ago, the city was sort of, they didn't want to put trees in the sidewalk because of the, abuse of say stuff in there. Then they were promoting putting them in the yard, which in a dense urban neighborhood is difficult because it's that much closer to the house. There isn't always room for it there either. And I feel like that's kind of run its course, and now we're back to putting them in the sidewalk, or, so does this apply to sidewalk trees, yard trees, both?
So this specific outreach effort is for the sidewalk,
This is for sidewalk.
but
Okay,
along with the Parks Department, we do, and DPW, we do want to do another outreach effort around what you're talking about, is getting trees in your front yard. And also just educating people about the 3 opportunities you have. Right now, you can have parks help plant in your front yard. You can have the street tree, or there's the state program where you can get a tree planted in your backyard for free tree too. And as part of our effort to expand the canopy, we're looking at all of these options and going to do different outreach efforts for each one. So this is the first one, but we will do one for in your yard too.
and that would be the city now.
City would plant it in your front yard.
Okay, because at one point I asked the city about doing that, and they sent me the Worcester Tree Initiative, which I think is now sort of close up shop.
Yeah, so here's,
Okay,
and it only goes 20 feet into your property, so you can't put it, if maybe we
Right.
reached out, they said, oh, that's too far into the property, it's past our boundary of where we plant.
yeah.
That would have been.
And the city asserts a tree right of way 20 feet into your property. So once they planted it, they also can cut it down if they want to. They never do, and that's good.
Yeah.
It's not a good investment when you plant it and then cut it.
No, but I mean, the city has to be able to prune the trees that are right on the boundary, and they assert the right to do that. It is what it is. It's in the ordinance.
Steve?
Yeah, nice. Do you know if they're moving toward any of the sidewalk treatments that allow for those to grow without so much disruption, like the softer, squishier sidewalks?
Through the chair, so, yes and no. So your specific, option you referenced, which, allows for some of the compacted materials below the concrete to be a little softer to allow for tree roots to grow in. That is not being addressed. What is being addressed is the actual tree pit itself. So for a long time, we've had when streets are being redone, the contractor that is in charge of installing the streets and the sidewalks is also in charge of putting in the tree. They have usually very little to no experience doing that, and as a result, the trees have a low survivability rate, and the ones that do survive look like they're barely hanging on. What has been changed now is effective just about a few weeks ago, and will really take an effect in starting this coming spring with the new construction season, is that our Parks Department will be overseeing that effort. So all trees that get planted along the right of way will go through the Parks Department and their contractors who have been vetted and screened specifically to do this kind of work, with expertise in this kind of work. And so the expectation is that a whole bunch of those trees that often would either fail or limp along for 20 years and then fail will have a much more robust life expectancy as a result. So, and a lot of that is to do with the tree pit itself, to allow for those roots to expand like they're supposed to and have the proper soils, et cetera, put in place in the beginning. So that's why I said it's sort of that, but it's not directly to what you were referring to. But it still should be a significant improvement.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, through the chair, that makes me think, talk of tree pits, something else. And I'm not sure if this is parks or it's probably DPW, but do we yet have a standard or or policy or construction standards so that when they're rebuilding the sidewalk, they leave a proper tree pit behind, because on my street, when they rebuilt the sidewalk, they paved literally right up to the tree. And I questioned the guy when they were doing it, and he looked at me and said, well, that's how I like to do it. That was the answer. And then I mentioned it to the tree warden, and he said, again, we're trying, you know? But hiring these contractors, that would seem like something that ought to be just written right into the work.
Well, I think that will, through the chair, that will be solved as part of this, because as I noted, that the Parks Department, it will be their contractor who ultimately will be installing the tree. And so if it needs a wider pit to be installed than what was left them, then they will go ahead and expand that pit that was available to make sure it meets the minimum specifications that the city requires for planting that size tree.
So that, through the chair, that's great for planted trees. I'm talking about mature existing trees that have tree pit. The city rebuilds the sidewalk, and the contractor who pays the sidewalk pays right up to the tree.
I
We
see.
need to maintain those tree pits when they work on the sidewalk, and hopefully it's better than it was when they did my street, but I've seen it more than once. And it ought to just be in those contracts. The tree pits are to be, not just preserved, but also evaluated. If it needs to be bigger, then let's make it bigger. That's a chance to fix it.
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head, so I will check in to see what the standard is.
Thank you.
And not to belabor this, but the same thing with doing sidewalks with the grass. They pour concrete in the margin where the grass is gonna grow, and there's like this much room, and then they fill it with soil and spray it with grass. That grass is never gonna live, so just fill it with weeds.
I mean, the green strip is the,
Yeah, well, the green strip isn't very wide in the first place, and I know it's very attractive and whatever, but then in some places, it's full of the concrete that they swept off the top of the sidewalk. Is Parks taking that over too, or they just doing trees? And they're leaving the contractors with the grass. It wouldn't kill them to do the grass next to me as well.
Through the chair, Mary, you have a chat comment.
Oh, yes.
Mary, do you want me to read them, or would you like to try to take yourself off the mute? She was saying that she agreed with you, Ted, about contracts language, not reading the language carefully enough, possibly someone's reusing contracts. Do you agree with her?
It's good, thank you, Mary. Okay, so that's the tree planting effort. Are we ready to move on to resilient MVP grant?
So yes, through the chair, the Resilient Worcester Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant. The update, and Jesse, please jump in if I miss anything, but the update is that we now have WPI students doing an analysis of the work that was done the prior year. So in the prior year, we had started this work where we identified 40 sites across 4 quadrants of the city, including the donor hole in the center of the city, which is the combined sewer area. So excluding that, the city was divided into 4 quadrants, and 10 sites were selected from each as potential good sites for green infrastructure. They are doing the analysis now to the window that bring that down from 40 to 15, and then eventually down to 6 sites. So that is ongoing. The WPI students have joined the fray, if you will, in terms of this effort. So we're excited to see what they come up with on that. And there's a lot of other work that's going on in terms of data sharing and whatnot, especially with regard to that donor hole with the combined sewer area. There's another group that is working on a study to look at that area, and the hope is that the modeling at the end of this will combine both of those models into one more cohesive model. So there's a lot of work going across vendors as well as from city staff and DPW staff, water super folks, to our consultants, trying to put this, get all the pieces lined up properly so that we can put together a good model report as well. So more to come on that. I want to just emphasize though that while you may not see any specific output on this for several months, in terms of progress, there's an awful lot of work being done. But we did think it was certainly worthy to note that the WPI students have engaged.
That's great. Good, thank you. And this next item looks fascinating.
Yes. So this is, we got an award, another award. That's, so the American Planning Association gave out an award for our Milwaukee Forest project. Give credit to the BSC group who helped us on putting this together. They were our lead consultant when we put in the Milwaukee Forest. And they also were the ones who suggested, there is an award, should we go for it? And we agreed. We should go for it, and we were successful. So that was great news. I believe it's our second for the Milwaukee Forest award that we've received for that. So that's just another.
Where'd you get?
An award.
Last time we got a piece of wood,
Yeah.
like a little trophy that's in our office that says Sustainability Award, City of Worcester. It was for our Green Worcester plan.
Yep. So we suspect we'll get something similar. But yeah, it's just recognition more than anything. But it's nice. It's nice to be able to say that it's been, we've gotten a second award for that effort. It was certainly an effort. So nice to see that people have responded so positively.
Big recognition to Evelyn.
Big recognition for our building to share. It all started with that. True story.
True story. That's great.
That's all I have on that too.
Okay, Jen.
To the chair. Yeah, no, that is great. Congratulations to everyone who pulled this together and had their input to it. And I would assume that part of what these awards recognize is that this is kind of a visionary idea. And I just want to, I've said this before, but I hope the city is looking for how this visionary idea can be replicated. Because, the quarter acre, half acre, whatever we've done already, it's not going to solve the global climate problem, obviously, but it's a new way of thinking that if we got in the habit of doing it wherever we can, might, help solve the climate problem. I just can't help thinking of the schools and the opportunity to have kids involved in it, and you have a teaching opportunity and free labor, and it just might be a nice kind of thing, and with a lot of co-benefits. So, what I would say about that, but it's very nice to see that others recognize the visionary nature of this.
I just wanted to, the part of this is the grant and all the work you guys put into it, taking that these seriously. Everybody.
And through the chair, just to respond very quickly, is that totally agree. And the goal is not to install two, but to use the two to install, literally dozens more years. And we think this is, it's just one tool, a tool shed, if you will, but it's an awfully good one. And again, he's out there, especially in communities where there may not be much greenery, that we can target those as in environmental justice areas in particular. And they can have some real impact. And I think it was you, Ted, that actually was the one who said that given the fact that we are now running into far more headwinds regarding cover mitigation than anyone anticipated with the change of the federal administration. That we better get really good on the resilience side of the equation. And this certainly is one measure that would fit that bill.
Yeah, and I'm afraid that might be the last time I say that. But, yeah, and I'm just thinking through the chair, we do have, you know, a lot of developers wanting to build things right now. And I know that when that happens, there's a back and forth with the city about what's allowed and what's required. I know that I think that might be the zoning board out in the next room, and I know that sometimes they ask for trees. You know, it's one of the mitigations that they're looking for, which is great. We have an opportunity to demand something. I'm wondering if we want to figure out how to promote the idea of Miyawaki forests in some of these new developments, where it's possible. You know, it's not always possible, but if it was, it would be awesome to get
For sure.
private parties to take that on, and then maybe they'd start doing it again and again, because they can see how great it is.
Indeed. Indeed. More to come on that, for sure. We have a conversation with the folks in the planning department pretty regularly, so I'll make sure to bring this up. We've talked about them already, but we'll get back.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Canada, one last comment on that is it really, in a perfect world, it will become one of the options that would happen if and when we do a zoning partial or full rewrite as part of the now next plan, which is expected. So we're gonna talk, yeah, on that.
Yes.
Before you go to the next.
Yeah.
Agenda item, I would like to circle back to the tree line for a moment. And my obsession with sidewalks. Which there's another concern, which is this: when the city rebuilds sidewalks, that's often the end of a lot of large mature trees that are, you know, if the tree is starting to show signs of decline. And I do understand this. If they're gonna do this whole job, that's the efficient time to take out a tree and do what you're gonna do when you're fixing the sidewalk. So they see a tree that might have 10 or 15 years left, but they're doing the sidewalks now. The tree's probably gonna come down now. And anyone who's lived on a street where the sidewalk was rebuilt knows that that's when you lose a lot of your mature shade trees, because that's how those jobs are done. What I'm wondering is, you know, I was talking about making sure that we fix the tree boxes for those trees that don't come down. I want to know if the city always looks for every opportunity to replant, whether there was a tree there or not. You know, it'd be nice to think that when they're building the sidewalk, the tree box is concrete you didn't have to buy, right? And it would be nice that sidewalk rebuilds included planting for as many trees as possible. The ones that come down and the new ones, if there's a place for them. But I guess my question is that part of the city's, you know, routine process when we're rebuilding sidewalks, or does it depend on what the budget happens to be at that moment, whether we can afford trees? Where are we with that?
So through the chair, yeah, the Department of Transportation Mobility is actively looking at this topic very specifically in terms of doing exactly what you're describing, so that they would maximize the number of trees that can go into those spaces when they redo the streets. So that is part of what they're tasked with, is part of their mobility action plan. And so they are moving forward toward formalizing that, so it's included in all contracts work. So yes, the short answer is yes. I do just make people aware that when an existing tree pit has a tree in it that's taken down, removing that tree stump, it's actually not a very good place to put a new tree typically. Even grinding out that stump, there are still roots that remain typically, unless you're extraordinarily aggressive with your stump grinding, which can prohibit that particular space from being a good candidate. But hopefully that means that there's a space adjacent to it that could be done instead, and that's the goal. So people often say, why don't you, there's a blank tree pit there. Well, it's not blank, it's got an old stump in it, and we can't grow tree there. So just for clarity.
And through the chair, you can always tell where those old tree stumps were because 5 or 10 years, it's a little puddle
That's right.
in the sidewalk.
Yeah. That's right.
Thank you. We'll move on to standing items then. The first being items for consideration for future agendas. Does anybody have anything? As we're approaching the end of the year, we do have some items that we've talked about at previous meetings that haven't been on yet. And I think that had a lot to do with a staffing change, et cetera, in the department. So we do have some things that we can look forward to for the beginning of next year. Do we have anything new that we'd like to add on at this time? Also, we can add them at other times, but if anybody has something burning right now, you can say it, or email myself or the department for our next meeting, which is scheduled for January 5th. Right?
No meeting in December.
No meeting in December. You know, it's about 10 meetings a year, so the way he crosses.
Through the chair, I don't have anything new today. I do think we have some things that are sort of in process that have, taken time for one reason or another. I can't even name them all, but I'd like to go back and find all that and not lose
Yeah, I agree.
those things, turf fields is one of them that
Yeah.
we talked about and just finished. Looking at other municipalities are doing something that is kind of it's in process. Those are the ones I can think of.
Okay, then do we have any upcoming events that are not DSR organized that we want to promote? Jesse?
So this is an event organized by the city economic development, executive. It's the annual Worcester Landlord Summit, and they took a break during COVID, and it's back strong the past few years. This is the third year it's been back. It has a great turnout. 200 to 300 landlords come each time. It's at the DCU Center. So this year it'll be Saturday, January 10th. I'll be there with Gabby, our energy advocate. We'll be presenting about energy efficiency in your rental units. And we'll also have our table. You can come up and ask questions there as well. And then our partners at Clark, who are researching landlord attitudes around trees. We have students that are studying that. And they'll be having a table and doing kind of short interviews with landlords and asking them questions as part of their data gathering, which will be very interesting to see what they come up with. They're doing interviews right now and focus groups, and they'll eventually come back to us with their finished research. But this is a great place to reach a lot of people. So if you're a landlord, I encourage you to come. It's a really great event. We put the link there, but other topics are running your property like a successful business, being a historic building owner, sanitary codes, fire prevention, working with DPW, housing grant opportunities, FEMA flood maps, and many more. So it's a really great event. Just wanted to share that with y'all.
It is a great event. I've attended a number of years. It really is good.
Mary, we presented it together with you.
Right. There being no other announcements, we can take that motion to adjourn. Second? Anybody opposed? Third? Okay. So next meeting, January 5th, in the new year. Wow. Wow. Happy holidays to everybody.
Yep, yep. Yeah, sorry, it's late, but I come here to see you. Part for the year.